Sean was at the Catholic prayer breakfast this morning. The vice president spoke. We'll get to see what Sean's review is and describe the scene a little bit. I will tell you as a preview of what we're going to talk next. He's my winner of the week. He's on an incredible streak.
Oh,
He is so popular with everybody in the party, including the president. Roll tape, please. A little bit of the vice president from this morning.
I want to say a couple of words just about Trump administration policy, because while you're certainly not always going to agree with everything that we do in President Trump's administration, I feel very confident in saying that between protecting the rights of pro-life protesters, between ensuring that we have an opportunity to protect the rights of the unborn in the first place, and importantly, protecting the religious liberty of all people, but in particular Catholics, I think that we can say that President Trump, though not a Catholic himself, has been an incredibly good president for Catholics in the United States of America.
I've seen a lot of political speeches over 30 years. This was one of the best. He was fantastic, and a lot of it was off the cuff. He walked out and basically said, all right, I know my team's going to freak out on me, but I'm just going to talk to you guys. And it was, so what made it good was that it was genuine. He sprinkled in some policy stuff with his own faith journey, made some fun Catholic jokes at our expenses because he's a convert, and he talked about cradle Catholics versus what he calls himself a baby Catholic. It was funny. It was inquisitive. It was impactful. He prayed for the Pope, who is suffering some health issues right now. He did a phenomenal job, and it was, to me, a reminder of why he is the future of the party and the movement today. Just as some background, today is the 20th anniversary of the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. This is the first time I'm sitting here in the convention center. It's been at a Marriott hotel for at least the past 10 years. But because of the, not just that JD was going to be the speaker, this was planned well before the election, but the growth of the Catholic movement and politically, it was a multiple of the size it was in the years past. And it's amazing when you walk around, they identified a lot of the Catholic administration and congressional leaders that were here and that are important in the movement. It's just been amazing to watch it grow over the past several years.
Yeah, Dan.
I mean, just some of the irony here. Joe Biden was a practicing Catholic. I mean, he would go to mass every single Sunday. I'd see him. He would go to Holy Trinity in Georgetown. He didn't brag about it. He talked about it a little bit, but it got him through a lot of challenges in his life. And so I just, everyone has their own opinion, but it's ironic that he's talking about Donald Trump as this kind of model Catholic.
But see, Dan, and
I know, and the issues matter. I get it.
But this is, so actually, here's what I was going to say. I actually, this is to me, like, when I was in the White House, people used to say Spicer, a devout Catholic. And I'm like, I've never talked openly about my faith. And I think that everybody's personal relationship with God is theirs to discuss, not to discuss, and so I would never impugn somebody's relationship with God and how they want to discuss it or express it. That's between them and God. But I will say this, what Joe Biden did that I actually had a problem with is that if you're going to talk openly, which he did, about being a practicing Catholic, and then undermine the very tenets of that faith publicly, it really undermines your credibility.
Look, I mean,
Vance undermines it on the death penalty.
I was just going to say, look, as someone who went to a Jesuit high school and was born and raised Catholic, this is a tension in the Catholic Church, and why the Catholic Church has lost parishioners in America and in Europe. There are some issues that Joe Biden is, to Catholics, not good on. And there are some issues that Republicans are not. And by the way, hold on. The Pope and American Catholic leaders have been very critical about immigration, about treatment of immigrants, because they say so. I mean, it's got to be fair.
Yeah, no, and I
think
think
Catholic episode, everybody.
Right. No, by the way, yeah. Well, it's funny because we talked. Mark was asking about that. JD addressed a lot of that today. I think the difference for me is I get it. A lot of Catholics struggle with certain tenets of the faith and certain issues, right? And that's something that we just talked about, that the vice president talked about today. But I think the difference is that you don't flaunt them. Like, there are disagreements that people have, and where I had a problem with Joe Biden, especially on the issue of life, is that's not some small little issue. That is a tenet of the faith, and he would basically dismiss it, which is, again, it's one thing to say, here's my concerns with it. Joe Biden was pro-life. and he wrote extensively about it. He switched his position not because of a disagreement with the faith, but because of political things. And that, to me, that's where he lost me.
Let me tell you two things about JD Vance. We got to move on to winners, losers, and looking forward this weekend, and then we'll go to everybody's questions. If you want in on the conversation, please raise your hand. First of all, Sean is right. You should watch the whole speech, whether you like Vance or not. You should watch it. One of the things he said, which was just tweeted, which also caught my eye. Vance tells the Catholic prayer breakfast that when the pandemic first happened in early 2020, his second child was only 3 weeks old, and he went to Dick's and bought 900 rounds of ammunition, and then he went to Walmart and bought 2 bags of rice.
2 bags of rice
to wait it out. All right, I got to tell you,
it was one of the funniest lines he gave today. And then, of course,
900 rounds of ammunition and 2 bags of rice. Yeah.
He also made some funny jokes about waiting for his kid to be baptized. And he said, if any of you have a problem, that's on the Dominicans. They're the ones who told me to do it. So again, a lot of inside baseball.
Yeah, Catholic jokes. Humor. We never know what's going to happen. He could crash and burn. Trump could turn against him, although he'll never. Trump, Don Jr. and Tucker will never turn against him. And so I will say, if you look at the modern history, influential vice presidents who had great relationships with the president, little tension, and super sway with the staff, and the ability to be their own person, but also a team player. You can look at Al Gore. You can look at Cheney. This is unprecedented in our time, what's happening right now. His influence and the fact that everybody likes him and he knows his lane. There's no danger of what happened with Gore, with wanting to start his own political operation. No danger what happened with Cheney, where Cheney overshadowed the president in some ways after 9/11. Like this is unprecedented what's happening here. And he's proven to be so skillful. It is early.
It is early because we got to see, by the way, a year from now when Vance starts thinking about 28, that,
Yeah, 100%.
By the way, the beauty of the construct of this is so amazing, right? Because, Cheney had been there from the beginning. The nice thing about JD is he walks into a second term with a president who's term limited. That sets up a construct that is just so unique in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he doesn't have the same issues of trying to get out in front of them early, et cetera, and those first term missteps.
Yep, it's unprecedented so far. And I said, Dan, as you did, it's early.